Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the 10th session in our conference. I'm Pamela Franklin, and I'm the Pacific Northwest Regional Director of the CFO Leadership Council and the Director of the Emerging Leaders Program. It's a thrill to welcome you to this discussion on mastering continuous reporting and real-time information delivery. We have a powerhouse panel of experts ready to share their expertise with you. I'm so thankful for all the speakers that choose to spend their time sharing experience with the CFO Leadership Council, both through presentations like we've experienced with this conference and through the variety of panel discussions our chapter hosts on a monthly basis. Our membership of financial leaders have quite a generous spirit of giving back, and it's through the spirit of giving that the Emerging Leaders Program was created. As a member-driven initiative, the Emerging Leaders Program started in August of 2019 with the goal to recognize and honor budding financial professionals who have had the potential to become rockstar CFOs. It's through the generosity of our members who've expressed a strong desire to share the benefits of their wisdom and experience with the next generation of CFOs that we were able to welcome almost 50 emerging leaders into membership within the past 15 months. Recipients of the awards have been early career finance and accounting professionals. As the director of the Emerging Leaders Program, I've had the distinct pleasure to welcome each of our award winners into membership and help them engage in our community. Through monthly emerging leader community discussions, we were able to develop a list of hot topics that they were interested in diving deeper into. And then over the course of the past, our veteran CFOs have hosted specialized trainings on several of these topics. I am pleased to announce that several of these emerging leaders have decided to renew their membership at the CFO Leadership Council, and a few have even felt the call to step up into leadership themselves as members of their local steering committee. We're in the process of reimagining the Emerging Leaders Initiative for 2021 to ensure it aligns with our newly created diversity, inclusion, and equity program offering. I encourage you to stay tuned for Emerging Leaders version 2. And if you're feeling the spirit of giving pulling you towards involvement into the Emerging Leaders program, please reach out to me at any time. I welcome the connection. But that's enough from me. Now on to our generous and spectacular moderator, Steve Kovac. A little bit about Steve. Over the past 10 years, Steve Kovac has been the Chief Financial Officer of both First Broadcasting and Una Vez Mas Television Group, portfolio companies of Alta Communications, a prominent media private equity group in Boston. Steve was the CFO of a NASDAQ-listed international technology manufacturer of networking equipment. He served as the COO and the CFO of the People's Network, a 24/7 network for the Success Channel, and as the regional CFO of AT&T Wireless Services after being the CFO on a startup team of the first Dallas mobile phone company. Steve began his career at Arthur Andersen and Company and was licensed as a CPA in Colorado and Texas. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Steve Kovac. Steve, the stage is all yours.
Oh. It won't let me start my video. It says the host had. There we go. Hello and welcome to this exciting and important topic. In those CFO roles for about 30 years, I recall the increase in the close and reporting process due to the blazing speed of dot matrix printers. And later there was a lot of buzz and workshops on how to close in 3 days. And now we live in a time where decisions sometimes need to be made every hour. And the timeliness and accuracy of financial information is essential, and it's highly strategic to our businesses in this hyper competitive global market. Today we have 3 fellow CFOs with us with firsthand experience, so let's meet them. Alyssa?
All right, thanks, Steve. First of all, thanks very much for having me. So I'm Alyssa Filter. I am the CFO at Plenary, and I'm joining from San Jose, California. I started my career in public accounting and have spent really my entire career working with venture-backed technology companies, primarily in the software as a service space. So a little bit about Clary. Clary's a revenue operations platform that uses automation to gather data and insights from sales and marketing systems. And then it applies artificial intelligence to provide a single source of truth for forecasting and pipeline management. And Clary provides our customers and our company ourselves real-time information to spot risk and opportunity in the pipeline, as well as increase forecast accuracy, which as CFOs, we know is especially critical to running the business. And so I'm really excited to be participating in this panel and learning from the other panelists, as I think this is a super critical and very timely topic. And I think real-time information delivery and continuous reporting have arguably never been more important. So really excited for the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michelle Garrison. I'm the CFO. Jedex Health is a revenue cycle management company. We provide back office support to hospitals, acute facilities, and physician groups. I actually started my career in construction. Grew up as an electrical engineer, I say, owned a construction company in Atlanta, Georgia for 12 years, and learned the hard way the importance of timely information and financial reporting to drive a business. And so found my way into accounting 12 years later, and was excited to join Jedex Health as their CFO. Jedex Health, as I said, we provide back office support to our clients. And so it's extremely important for us to be able to provide them with information around their collection processes, patient access, and other information that we provide. And so using machine learning and artificial intelligence and our data scientists, we utilize automation and reporting and real-time information on a daily basis to be able to not only to support our clients, but also to support ourselves internally as it concerns internal reporting and financial information needed to drive the business. So Steve, thank you for having me as a part of the panel. And I'm excited to not only share my experience, but to learn.
Hi, everyone. This is Hemant Kumar. I am CFO of Soul Millennium Medical Group. Soul Millennium is a global medical device company. I also serve on the board of the company. Before Soul Millennium, I worked with Baxter for about 10 years, doing various roles of leadership in Asia Pac as well as in North America. And before that, I have worked in two other industries, with credit cards in American Express and automotive with General Motors. I'm very excited to be part of this panel. I think the subject is really important and very timely. So thank you, CFO Leadership Council, as well as Steve, to invite me to the panel.
No, thank you, guys. Yeah, I'd like to ask all of you, do we all agree that being able to continuously produce relevant financial information should be a strategic objective of the CFO? So Hemant, I'll go to you to answer this first, and also maybe you can tell us the reasons your organization wanted to adopt real-time reporting.
Sure. So I would give you a little bit of a background about our company and business, and then why we kind of adopted real-time reporting and how is it a very strategic thing going forward for finance as a function. So Soul Millennium, as I mentioned, is a medical device company. We sell in about 50 countries. We have our offices in South America, in North America, Asia Pacific, and Europe. So with that kind of a size, and I will say that we have the complexity of any large multinational, but with a relatively small size and scale. And what happens with that is that it brings a need to have the information in a very fast way. So we are a product innovative product company along with an e-commerce and distribution platform. So the information which we need on a real-time basis is very, very critical for our success. So as an organization, given we are very lean and we need the information in a fast way, we kind of adopted real-time reporting so that we can actually manage this complexity of a large multinational organization through that information which is available on a real-time basis. To do that, we kind of adopted the real-time reporting, I will say about 12 to 18 months ago. At this point of time, we are, I will say, mid to advanced stage of that process. And today we can actually go, like, for example, in sales, this data gets updated every 4 hours, and we can go to the SKU level across the globe, that where the sale is happening, of which SKU, what time, which customer, and so on. So I will say real-time reporting has really helped us. It has helped us taking away that resources which were spending time in data gathering, doing the Excel churn and gathering the reports, to putting them on the decision-making side, putting them on the analytics side, and giving a very good data to the management to take those decisions, which has really contributed to our significant growth. So that's the broad reason why we adopted and why we are so happy with this this adoption, which we did, like as I mentioned, 12 to 18 months ago.
Thanks, Amit. Michelle, so is it strategic, and how about the evolution of the role of the CFO and the accounting and finance team?
Yeah, it's so important, Steve, for the CFO to be that strategic partner to the company. You know, back when finance and accounting was more just, you know, let's produce the reports, let's do our month-end close and get the financial statements out 2 weeks later and publish old information, and hopefully we can use that information to drive the business to meet our targets. That day no longer exists. We really have to up the ante for the CFO. The cash drives the business, the finance, the economics of the business. It really is a major part in making decisions, helping the CEO and the executive teams to understand and know where we are at that time and where we're going based on our forecasts and projections. That's important. And so as a CFO, that's the role that we play. So we become less of a reporting the news, I would say, Steve, and more or less driving decision making. And so that makes us an important part of being strategic versus just telling everyone how we're doing 3 weeks later, a month behind.
Thanks, Michelle. Alyssa, so you have some unique experience with this. How does your organization approach this?
Yeah, sure. So real-time reporting and visibility is core to Clary's mission and the product. So thankfully, this has always been part of the DNA of the company. However, our product is really centralized around core go-to-market data, such as the pipeline and the forecast. And while that's one of the most critical areas to have real-time visibility into, there's still many other parts of the company where we've really evolved to drive that real-time reporting that helps us make strategic decisions. So I would say as a CFO, there's a lot of data points outside of just core financial statement type of data that fall into the bucket of what I would call relevant financial data. And so at Clary in the past year, we set up a data warehouse and invested in BI and data visualization. And are working to connect many of our systems throughout the company in order to have a business intelligence cockpit, if you will, that has all of our key metrics in one place in real time. And so one of the first steps that we took in that process was to really identify the core systems that we needed in order to get that real-time information delivery. And so once we identified that, we procured the systems that we needed to facilitate. And then one of the next steps was meeting with all the key stakeholders in the company to understand what are the top 3 to 5 key pieces of data that would be a first step and be the most strategic to empower our decision making. And so once we put together our roadmap of the integrations that needed to be done, we used an Eisenhower matrix of sorts to determine which areas we would tackle first. And it's going to be really an ongoing project for us to get better and better data, better and faster data to really understand the business drivers and the levers that we need to produce highly informed, data-driven decision making.
Great. Yeah, I did want to mention for anybody out there, if you do have questions for the panelists, feel free to submit those through the Q&A. If we have time at the end, we'll get as many of those answered. I'm going to ask one typical CFO question right now. We all like to hear what was done, but how do we do it? And everybody wants to know how to do it or what can we do. So Hammett, how did you execute the change in your company, and what were the various steps, and also what were along the way, what were the challenges in doing it?
Sure. So I will take you to the journey of like my 4 or 5 years with Soul Millennium, and then how we evolved as an organization to get to the real-time reporting. So when I started with the company about 4 years ago, we were very Excel heavy. And we used to close our month by like week 3, week 4. So by the time the financials are ready, available to the management team, to the board, the data is already stale. So the management is already talking about the current month, and the previous month data is now less relevant, less impactful, less important. So we kind of over the period thought about it and said that, okay, how should we do this? And we followed a 2-pronged approach. So first is that we started working on our month close processes to see that how can we make it more efficient? How do we cut the time on the month close process to make it much more faster than waiting for 3-4 weeks to close the books? On the other side, we started streamlining our ERP system and launched the real-time reporting platform. And when we launched the real-time reporting platform, we started kind of looking into that, okay, which reports, how to kind of put it on the how to create the interfaces, how to put it on the real-time reporting. And I would say that now with the, as I mentioned earlier, with the real-time reporting, most of our dynamic data, which includes sales, inventory, sourcing, all of that comes through the real-time reporting. For example, in case of inventory, today we can go and check the SKU level, age of any SKU of inventory sitting in our books anywhere in the globe. I won't say that we have reached the state of nirvana. We haven't. But we have come a long way as an organization. From a challenges perspective, I would say that one of the big challenge was change management. So when you are used to deliver in week 3, week 4 of the month close to workday 2, workday 3 is a huge change for an organization, and especially with the complexity and the cross cultures and the cross presence across the globe. And we followed a block by block building approach. So we said, okay, let's not disrupt this cart on one go. Let's go report by report. So we initiated a sales report to start with. And then we built the inventory report. And once people saw the value in this, when people saw the 2 reports, how they had made their life easy, how they kind of improved the efficiency, how they were able to check the data on a real-time basis, and the level of detail they were able to see, I will say that that actually created that leap for us, and it kind of transitioned into a culture than just a reporting. So that is how I will describe kind of my or Soul Millennium's journey on this path.
Oh, excellent, Hemant. And Michelle, I'm going to go to you next, but real quickly, could the three of you just in a word or two answer a question from the audience, from an audience member? Can you mention what ERP system you're using?
So I can go first. We use SAP.
Okay.
We're actually still on QuickBooks Enterprise. Our accounting process is very simplistic. We've invested more on our operations side as it concerns different software and systems, but we're on QuickBooks Enterprise.
Okay.
And we use Intact.
Sage Intacct. Okay, thanks. So, Melissa, or I'm sorry, Michelle, what are some of the key financial reports that you use in the company to drive key business decisions?
So we do a number, we have a rigor that we go through on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And on a weekly basis, well, let me back up and say our model is a recurring revenue model. Most of our clients, we service them on a contingent basis. So the work that we provide to them is contingent upon them receiving their cash, because that's what we do. We service them. All of our services are geared towards making sure that the hospitals, the physician groups are paid for the services that they do. So it's extremely important for us to be able to minimize the costs that we incur in providing the revenue cycle management services to our client. So because our clients are sticky and we partnered with them for a long time because we are considered their right arm as it concerns their team, we have recurring revenue. So that allows for us to be able to, on a weekly basis, look at revenue from a client down to the client level. And so we produce what we call revenue flash reports that's inclusive of what we expect to earn from that client on a monthly basis. And from that point, we create financial statements on a weekly basis. Well, I'll call it a summary P&L on a weekly basis. So we have some insight on where we're going by the end of the month, and we can drive behavior 2 weeks within the month if we see that we're not meeting our targets. We also produce weekly cash reports. It's very important to us that we understand where cash is. So on a daily basis, from a treasury perspective, I work with my treasury analyst and we're looking at cash, and we produce reports that we provide to the management team on a weekly basis as it concerns cash. We also create weekly reports where we can see the inventory that we're getting in. We know on a daily basis how many assignments that are coming into that we've been assigned from our clients, and those are patient accounts. And so we see that on a real-time basis because we've also created a data warehouse. With that data warehouse, we also use machine learning. And that machine learning gives us an idea of several different points around propensity for the patients to pay. So if I understand and know how a patient is paying, we can drive our behavior. So we send statements out to our patients as to let them know what is due, their liability. And because of our machine learning and our AI processes, we can change our statements dynamically. So if I find that a patient pays online versus paying through sending in a check, then we change their statement right away to when they get the statement, it shows the online right at the top. It shows the address for them to go and pay. And so that's very dynamic. And those are some of the things that we've invested in to be able to drive more on the front end behavior of the patient so that we know how that revenue is going to come in on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Thanks. So it's funny because we think of gosh, people that may have to change their livelihood, or people whose jobs will change very much. But as we embark on this journey, Alyssa, so what kinds of people should we look to in the organization to make this a reality?
Yeah, so it takes a lot of different skill sets and people across the organization, I think, to be really successful in having real-time reporting. So I would say first, and maybe most obvious on the technical side, it's really important to have a strong partnership with either the IT or business applications org. And depending on the complexity of the data you're trying to pull in and integrate, maybe even potentially somebody from engineering. And then I would say it's really critical to have someone with some strong systems knowledge in the BI or data visualization space, because I think, as we all know, it's not just about having access to mountains and mountains of data. It's about being able to surface insights from that data and being able to digest it in a simple way and start to draw correlations between the data and process it. And then on our own teams on the finance side, I think it's really critical that your team members understand the value of data-driven decision making and really integrate that into the core of all of the processes that are being set up and run by those team members. And then last, I think it's always really nice to have folks on the team that have experience participating in these big data projects, or have subject matter expertise and familiarity with the tools that you're implementing and using, so that they can share and drive best practices and continue to evolve your reporting environment.
Great. So I have a question, and maybe because of my age and how long a close, when I jumped the fence out of Arthur Andersen, how long a close took. You couldn't even tell you your answers until I think the 20th of the next month. So the question I have with the technology that we have today, and it's a question for all of you, I'd like to hear all your answers. Does the close go away? Do we have a balance sheet and an income statement at any minute that we want it?
So I will say, on the lighter side, I think that is one of the thing which any finance professional would like to go away. Month close is one standing thing which you want to go away. But unfortunately, in our organization, I will say that it hasn't go away, but it has become much more effective and efficient. So for example, we have reduced the timeline I was saying earlier from week 3, week 4 to workday 2, workday 3. A lot of consolidation work is automated. So we don't need to do the consolidation piece. So the perspective has changed. And even Alyssa actually mentioned it earlier in her comments, that now the focus is not on consolidating and following up on the reports that you haven't done this or you haven't done that, but it is more of taking that consolidated report and doing the analytics on it, to doing the variances explanations on it, to creating good insights on it for the use of management. So I would say that the close is still there, but the picture has changed quite a bit of that close since the time I started my career to now. So it's a very, very positive change in my view. And hopefully this will kind of continue with the continuous reporting and real-time reporting. I will say that the cycles will become, instead of a monthly close, to a weekly close. You will still have a monthly close, but you can check your data on a much more frequent basis instead of waiting till the month end. And that way your process will be much, much faster. By the time you finish your month, you may want to just pass some journal entries and done with it, and then spend time on the analytics.
Yeah, I agree with Hermit. I do not think the close goes away, but it looks different. Like I said, we have a look-see into what the month will look like on a weekly basis. And so that month-end close is the opportunity to look at just from a more strategic perspective and see, why things happen the way they did. What can we do to drive further decisions in the future? Are we meeting our goals officially? And so it becomes an official report that gets published and used and stored and ready for audit. But I do think that it becomes more of a time where the finance team collaborates and they talk about, what happened, and then they take that information and disseminate that to their business leaders. I know for us, I have divisional controllers, and those divisional controllers support business unit leaders. And so that is the time that they get with them. They talk about how their business performed that month, and the variances and where were the gaps and things of that nature, so that we become that advisor and partner and strategic teammate that can help them make decisions from a business perspective, to include financials. But I think it becomes the official report. I don't think it goes away.
I agree as well. I don't think the close fully goes away. The way I look at the close, the purpose is to produce GAAP financial statements. And so when we go through the close process, one of the outputs is GAAP financial statements. And from my perspective, I would say GAAP financial data is arguably not as critical to have real-time visibility into as other data points across the business and how the business is performing. So I think in an environment where there's always trade-offs and trying to understand what are the key pieces of data that you want real-time visibility into, I think Michelle mentioned things like cash and inventory, and there are really strategic pieces of the financials that you want that real-time visibility into. But then I would say things like stock comp expense or capitalized software amortization. Those are all pieces of the close that are not key to strategic decision making, and therefore we're not placing a ton of emphasis on having that real-time close process and on some of those parts of the financial statements. And so for us, the close still exists. A lot of the close process, like similar to Michelle, is that collaborative process across the business. And again, it's not just about the financial statements as a data point. It's what are the other areas of key data that you can extract from the rest of the business to give you indications of performance. And that really allows you to have those business partnering, very strategic conversations across the rest of the organization to drive value, not just report the news, as I think the others mentioned earlier in the session.
That's great. Well, what I'm hearing is a transformation of the close into something really different. And if that's true, and you're talking about more of an analytical time spent in analytical rather than transaction processing, here are the numbers, the tail lights, because as CFOs, we're more interested in the headlights, and so is the rest of the organization. But I'd still like to see the close go away, or if it's going to be what you guys are talking about, I'd like to then we'll move on to continuous analytics instead of continuous close. But what are three takeaways, maybe kind of in the same order? What are three takeaways that for the CFOs that are on this conference, because of the limited time we have, that as it relates to deploying continuous reporting and real-time information delivery? How can CFOs personally get up to speed?
Sure. So I would say that, after my experience with the continuous and real-time reporting, I think probably this is again a big step in the evolution of the finance function. So I think one step happened when ERP came along, and a lot of transactions went out of the finance function into the outsourcing. Then there was big data and other data gathering things came along. This is going to transform the reporting and analytics. And this is already transforming. And finance needs to think about their role in the organization once everybody in the company is able to see the data themselves, So if the report is available, they can go to the SKU level. Now they don't need to come to the finance reporting person or a accounting person to check those details. To the CEO, to the lowest junior person in the organization, you can, irrespective of that level, and you can see that data by yourself based on your excesses. So I will say that as a finance function, it is important, as a CFO, it is important to see that this change is coming, and it's better to be part of that bandwagon, part of that train as soon as one can, because this will really, in my view, revolutionize the finance function considerably. Second, I would say that if you are planning or already implementing this in your organization, change management is key. So based on my experience, I would recommend do a block by block, a phased approach of implementation, so that you can manage that change in the organization. And it is not a one piece advice for everybody. It depends on organization as well. And the third thing which we found very effective was to form a small focus team, which we called a digital team, which kind of worked on it solely. And their idea was to just build this platform up, create those interfaces with our ERP system, and to continues to evolve this reporting. So those are the three things I would give from my side to our group here as a takeaway.
Steve, one of the things that I have experienced that works is starting with the end in mind. And so a lot of times, there's a lot of different products out there, a lot of testimonies around the success of products. But I'd say the first thing to do is start with the end in mind. And so you want to know what you're playing for. What are you trying to, what information are you really trying to get to, so that will help you drive the business, and then back into how do you get there with what's the best tool to use to get there. And so I think sometimes from a finance perspective, we may find a tool or a system that may help us with automation and efficiency. But from an enterprise perspective, understanding how it affects the business and the business information and how that comes in and how the information comes in from a transactional perspective, then that really is, you want to be able to gather all of that and find the tools that will help you through all that will take you all the way to the end. And so I always tell my team, if you have a process improvement idea or something that you think would benefit us, start with the end game in mind and work back from there. The other thing is making sure that everyone is on board with the vision. It's one thing for my team to collaborate, finance and accounting, for us to collaborate and say, this is great, but not involving business and operation it can be crucial to the success of the plan. And so it takes everyone. And I think making sure that all players, all stakeholders are in the room helping driving the decision is key. And not only is it key, but I just think that there's so much value in diversity, not just thinking about where everyone is coming from, their experience in the business, their role in the business, their output in the business, what they use to be able to be successful in their role is important. And so having the diversity of what people are thinking, how they will use it is so important and so key to the success of a plan and implementing, like you said, change and creating those plans is important. And then I say training. It's one thing to be able to have a tool. It's another thing to get everyone involved and on board with the plan. But if you're not trained to use the system and you don't understand all the tools and the bells and whistles and how to use it and your function, you don't get the optimization of what you've invested in. And so those are the three things that I think are extremely important when you're thinking about reporting, automation, and things of that nature.
Alyssa?
All right, so a lot of overlap with the others, but the three areas I would say that are important to think about if you're looking to start a project to deploy continuous reporting. So the first would be spend the time upfront on planning. It's going to be a big time and resource investment, and so really understand your current system capabilities, what your roadmap for your systems looks like over time, because you don't want to duplicate effort. Understand the skill sets that you have on your current teams. And then across your systems, your team, identify what gaps you have and what areas of investment that you're going to need to make, and build that into your planning. Because I think that's really important, because again, large investment, both resources and from a dollars perspective and a people perspective in time. I think the next point would be prioritization. So one thing that we learned really working through real-time information is there's a mountain of data points that are going to be interesting and that you're going to want to surface, and insights that you'll want over time, but you can't do all of them at once. And so really getting to the core of what will you tackle first? What's the most important to prioritize is key to kicking off a project. And then I'll echo again what others said, really getting buy-in across the company. As a CFO, you need access to all sorts of corporate data across the entire organization to facilitate your decision-making. So make sure that the rest of the organization is on board, that they're participating, engaged in whatever initiatives you have in order to support that real-time reporting and the data that you need.
Great. Well, we do have some questions from the audience. There's a person out there that, the devil's in the details, and so there's some very detailed questions that are directed at you, Michelle. I think you can go online and maybe answer that person by typing to them.
Okay.
There's another person here that wanted to hear from everybody. It says real-time reporting appears to be a good way to transition to better business partnering. Can you share examples for how it's improved your business partnering? Anybody want to take that one, or all of you?
I'm happy to take that. So at Clary, like I mentioned, our platform is really focused on real-time information. And I think another question here was about single source of truth, and that having that real-time visibility available to the same amount of information really allows you to be a strategic business partner. Because, for example, I'm not calling my chief revenue officer asking detail after detail into customer specific or pipeline data. Because I have access to the data at any time, it's up to date, I can go in and be self-service, and it really streamlines the conversations that we have. And so again, much more forward-looking, much more proactive. And the more that you're able to do from a forward-looking perspective, I think as CFOs, it's really important for us to pivot as quickly as possible. So I'll use the current environment as an example. So at the beginning of when COVID initially hit, it was exceptionally important to have real-time access to data so that we could go work with all the other stakeholders in the business to understand how we might evolve our operating plan, how we might evolve our company strategy for the year, depending on how our business might be impacted, et cetera. And so I think no matter what the data points are specific to your business that are important for you to have real-time access to, that allows you to be much more proactive and strategic in the way that you utilize that information and partner with your peers at an executive level.
And I'll echo that. I will add an example, a real life example, which we have seen in the last 4 to 6 months. So we kind of were selling PPE and disinfectant. So we are in that business, and the market, the way it actually reacted once the COVID hit, the prices kind of went through the roof. And then once the supply started stabilizing, prices started dropping very fast as well. Now, given that we had a real-time information of our inventory of each and every SKU and product across the globe, where is it sitting, our business was able to take a decision to sell that stock at a lower price very, very quickly. And that is, in my view, a very good example of a great business partner and a strategic advantage of that tool, that where you can take that decision very quickly instead of asking everybody around the globe to send you the inventory report, and then you collect, and by the time you see the prices dropped another 10%, and now you are kind of incurring that loss.
Steve, I'll add one thing here that I truly believe, like I talked about, we have divisional controllers. But the other thing about being that strategic partner is being the translator. Sometimes we assume that business partner understands the data that you're providing, your financial statements. Sometimes the numbers don't tell the same story to them as it says to us. And so it's really important for us to be able to translate the information off the page so that they can understand from a business perspective what the numbers are saying and how they use that information to drive effective change if needed in their business and to make decisions. So we've become that translator, which means we've got to speak their language and we've got to simplify our language so that they understand the economics of what we're talking about and how it applies to their business.
Great. Another audience member asked, how do you tie the idea of getting the real-time reporting with an SSOT, single source of truth? Anybody want to take that one?
So I think I can actually jump on, but I want to know the definition of single source of truth a little bit. What does that mean?
I did sit here and ponder whether to throw it out, but we had time. I'll see if that person throws in any definition here.
A clarifying comment.
A lot of what I heard today is that there isn't any single source of truth. It's even Alyssa talked about, all of a sudden you have all this information and you want more, and pretty soon you're drowning in information and haven't really, cut down to what the things that are really important. Audience member, I threw it out there, but we didn't have a good answer for you.
I can speak to that a little bit. I mean, I think depending on what type of data, there has to be a clear owner. And so if you're using BI or data visualization and you're looking at really specific metrics, I think it's really important to centralize ownership depending on what type of data that you get, so that you do have a single source of truth. And if you're using data warehouse with some sort of BI tool and everybody's using the same dashboard, for example, or using the same reporting mechanism, I think that really helps with that single pane of glass and enables a single source of truth. And so whether it's a platform like Plenary for forecasting data, or using coming up with your KPIs and putting them in Tableau and pulling from all of your systems, having a clear owner across each of the data points and having ultimate responsibility and everybody aligning around the same data package. And so I think for us, when we started leveraging BI and dashboards in a more robust way, people weren't going to multiple different places for the same information. They all congregated and centralized around that reporting structure or infrastructure, and it really helped with that, with having one single source of truth.
And
So,
and
yeah,
with
no, I
that,
think
and with that, we have run out of time. I'm sorry, Hemet. I do want to I want to thank you guys. You guys have been awesome. And those attending, I hope this has been helpful to you. Have a good rest of your day, and hope to see you again in the future. Bye-bye.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Steve, and thank you, everyone.